Hey everyone! Thanks for joining for another episode of Spirit Club. I'm happy to have you in the club, and I hope today's episode supports you. So today's episode is about discipline. I feel like I should have dressed like a drill sergeant or something today, but I will bring the energy of it. As summer starts to wind down, sorry for saying that out loud. It feels like discipline wants to be discussed with this community. So I have always been disciplined, or as long as I can remember. Maybe it's because I'm a double Taurus. My astrologer, shout out to Gabrielle Celeste, tells me it's because I have Mars in Capricorn, where it's exalted. Or maybe it's because I grew up playing classical piano, which required me to practice 4 hours a day sometimes. Who knows? And it's funny because as soon as I knew that this episode was going to be on discipline, was the minute this episode started to require a lot of discipline to get out. Funny how that works. Life just started happening, being crazy, not having time. I had a lot of, I had guests, I had social events, I had stuff coming up at work, and I didn't have the time or space, and also wasn't feeling my best. So this episode was like, let's bring discipline to even just bring this to life. And I did, don't you worry. And I recognize that I am lucky in a way to be so disciplined. And ever since I stepped into the coaching space, clients have come to me often asking for help with their own discipline. So this one's for you. In order to prepare for this episode, I am not only drawing on my own experience as a disciplined person, but I also tapped into the energy of discipline. And when I felt into discipline, it seemed to have two sides. One side was very robot-like. I don't watch Star Wars, but it was looking like one of those robots in Star Wars. Don't ask me its name. Anyhow, and then the other side of discipline was this sort of wiser, more divine masculine, almost like caveman feeling energy. So I'm sure neither of these surprise you, and I will pull a little bit from what they had to say about discipline. So let's start with what is discipline. So the energy of discipline told me discipline is sustained commitment and action towards what you want. Sustained commitment and action towards what you want. So this is despite distraction, hardship, or lack of motivation. So that means taking action whether you feel like it or not, friends. And that's the kicker. So think of that robot energy. I know we don't have robots yet, or most of us don't, but I'm sure you can understand that a robot is just going to do what you ask it to do. It doesn't do things one day and not things another based on how it feels. It just does them. Okay, so that's what discipline is. Let's talk about what discipline isn't. Discipline is not motivation. So you really need to make this distinction clear. And I'm sure you've heard this conversation before. It's a popular one. But let's get clear about it in case you haven't. So a lot of folks who struggle with discipline believe that people who have discipline also have motivation. And they do not. This is important. It's not true. Motivation is an entirely different energy than discipline. So discipline, as I described above, is a masculine energy. It's kind of robot-like, very black and white, very focused, very no nonsense. Whereas the energy of motivation, on the other hand, is heart-driven, inspired, energized, excited. So motivation can inspire discipline for some amount of time, but you cannot rely on motivation to have discipline. So my fiance Shane and I are a really great example of these two things. So one might look at us, like maybe you've seen us in my Instagram stories or whatever it is, and you may look at us and think that we are both very disciplined. But if you look closer, we are two different things. Shane generally only does things that he is motivated to do. So if he is not motivated, he ain't doing it. So an example of this, I remember years ago, Shane was an entrepreneur, had a successful business running, and because he ran his own show, he ran his own schedule, and he could not get up early. That was not going to happen. Could not, would not. Whereas I was up every day early. And then he started getting interested in trading, like stocks and stuff. And it was important that he be awake at market opening, which was 7:30 Mountain Standard Time. And next thing you know, you guys, he starts getting up at 7 every day. I was shook. I was like, what's happening? But what it was is Shane had the motivation. So Shane got up. Me, on the other hand, I do hard things, whether I feel motivated to do them or not. If the action aligns with my vision, I'll just do them consistently. Some days I will feel motivated to do them and others I will not, but I will still do these things. So that's motivation versus discipline. And I want to highlight here that it's not like one is better than the other. It's not like discipline's better than being motivated. Both have their light and shadow sides. Okay, so in our culture, we put discipline on a pedestal, but folks who are very disciplined can also be very rigid and stuck in their ways, and they can override intuition with discipline and then find themselves very burnt out. And they can also override their intuition and find themselves heading down in a direction that is like no longer a direction they actually want to go in. But they're so disciplined, they just like keep going that way. So I just wanted to make clear there's no like morality here between motivation and discipline. I am just talking about discipline today because it sounds like it's something that would support you and something that you're looking for support with. Okay, so we've talked about what discipline is and what discipline isn't, and the difference between discipline and motivation. So now let's talk about why you might want to build more discipline. Surprise, surprise, it's because you won't always feel motivated. Motivation comes and goes, friends, and we lose motivation for various reasons. It could be being really busy. It could be being physically unwell. It could be distraction. It could be running out of time. It could be a lot of time passing. It could be being faced with an obstacle. These are all reasons you might lose motivation. And some things, especially big ones that you're trying to accomplish, require consistent effort over time. Consistent effort over time with no reward. Motivation ain't going to come in for you there. We need motivation to keep moving along. So maybe it's like making a big change to your health by changing your diet. Maybe you're training for a race. Maybe you want a meditation practice to connect more with spirit. Maybe you're building a business. These all require consistent effort over time that will not have reward every day. And motivation is just going to step out on you. And I assure you, like, you are not going to get, let's say you're building a business, you're not going to get a reward every time you sit down and work on your business. The amount of times, the amount of Instagram content that I have put out, that I have put work into, that falls completely flat is staggering. Like, that is a lot of consistent effort with no immediate validation or reward. But it is that consistent over time that has allowed me to have clients, to have this engaged community, to have you guys who are listening to this podcast, hopefully. So I think discipline for that. And then one more reason that you might want discipline is that growth often involves doing something hard, right? We know this. If you want to grow, if you want to move to the next level, you're going to have to do something hard. And when times get tough, motivation's like peace and slips out the door. So this is where you need discipline to step in and help you do the hard thing. Okay, so we've talked about why you might want to add in more discipline. So now let's talk about what makes discipline hard for you. So number one, let me see how I've got 7 of these for you. What is making discipline hard? So number one, you were born that way. I debated whether or not putting this one in, but I feel like it needs to be said that discipline is easier or more natural for some people. And I'm convinced it's your astrological birth chart. And I'm not an astrologer, so take this with a grain of salt. But likely, if you have a sun sign in an earth sun sign like Taurus, Capricorn, or Virgo, discipline's likely more natural for you. Or if you have a favorable Mars placement, so Mars is our planet of action. So if it's like in Capricorn or any of the earth signs, or even Scorpio, you're going to have an easier time with discipline. Just going to say. That does not mean discipline isn't something that you can wield, okay? And we will get to ways to make that easier for you. Okay, so number 2, what makes discipline hard? Energy, duh. So remember that robot side of the energy of discipline? So in order to complete a task, a robot needs a clear set of directions and power. That's it. It needs like battery power, right? So if the robot's battery is dead, it ain't doing what we asked it to do. So the same goes for your capacity to have discipline. The less energy you have, the harder it's going to be to get your discipline on board. Number 3, what's making discipline hard for you is lack of self-trust. So if you don't trust yourself, you almost like self-sabotage in order to keep proving to yourself that you can't trust yourself. Does that make sense? So it's like we attract what we believe. So you don't trust yourself. That's what you believe. I can't trust myself. So then you're going to like self-sabotage. And then you're like, oh, see, can't trust myself. So this might look like you commit to something like totally unrealistic for you, like getting up every day at 4 a.m. and doing workouts, or I'm going to cut gluten, dairy, and alcohol for 6 months. And you think by making that commitment that you are working on your discipline, but in fact, you're just setting yourself up for failure because you don't trust yourself. I hope that makes sense. Number 4, about what makes discipline hard for you, or what might make discipline hard for you. When I chatted with the other side of discipline, the divine masculine that was like kind of caveman-ish, he told me that what's making discipline hard for some of you is more about vision. So we need clarity around the vision. We wield discipline in order to get what we want. Okay, so your problem may not at all be the discipline. In fact, it's the vision. Are you clear about what you want and where you're headed? If you aren't clear on your vision, then discipline's just going to be wobbly. It's just like not an effective way to use it. So that was number 4. Number 5 is sort of along the same note. Maybe you are clear on your vision, but you don't actually believe in yourself, or you don't actually believe you can achieve the vision. So if that's the case, if you're like, okay, maybe I want to be a CEO of this company or whatever it is, but you don't actually believe that you'll get there, this is not a very effective way for discipline to work. So in this case, you've got some blocks to work through that are standing in between you and what you want. It's not discipline that's the problem. Number 6, why discipline may be hard for you is comparison. It needs to be said that discipline may look different on you than it does on someone else. And you need to own your own flavor of discipline. What I see a lot of folks doing is they'll be looking at the way discipline looks on one person, and then they'll feel defeated. Like, oh, I could never do that. So they'll give up on discipline entirely. So maybe to one person, discipline looks like they get up every day at 5 a.m. and they run to the gym and they do a workout before work. And maybe for you, it looks like you can fit in 3 workouts a week on your lunch hour. Own that. Give yourself grace. There's not one that's better than the other. It's just what it looks like for you. So comparison may be getting in the way of you wielding discipline. And finally, number seven, what's making discipline hard for you? This one's awesome, okay? You are focused on the outcome only and you're not enjoying the journey. This is a big one. I had this realization sometime ago. Someone taught me the concepts of type 1 versus type 2 fun. I'd never heard it before, but type 1 is like the fun that you are having in the moment. You are having fun in the moment. And type 2 fun is like you didn't actually have fun or a good time in the moment, but when you reflect back on it, it felt like it's a good time. Do you know what I mean? And when I heard this concept, I was like, ugh, I hate that. Type 2 fun is, to me, sounds really not present, and for why? So I really started to check myself. I am really physically active, and something I like to do for fun is physical activity. And so while I was like, let's say I was doing a big hike or a long run, I would check in on myself. Are you focused on the outcome? Are you focused on finishing it and it being done? So I would check in on myself. And if I was putting my focus there, I'd redirect it to be like, oh my God, I love running in the mountains. This is so fun. Like, bring the fun into the journey rather than just the outcome. So number 7, what's getting in the way or what is making discipline hard for you is that you are putting all the focus on the outcome and not the journey. And so if you can start to bring more enjoyment to the journey, discipline is going to be a lot easier, right? So if it's a diet change, make the food really delicious, or like have fun going to markets and hunting for the best ingredients. If it's working out, find an activity that you actually like and like make friends in a community so you have fun on the journey. Okay, you get the idea. Okay, so we've talked about what discipline is and isn't. We've talked about why you may want to increase your discipline. And we've talked about what makes discipline hard for you. Now let's talk about how you can be more disciplined. And I just want to remind you that this is not how to get motivated. Those are 2 different things. That's a conversation for another day. Remember, being motivated can support discipline, but you cannot rely on motivation to have discipline. So we're going to talk about how to increase discipline. So number 1, get clear on your vision and revisit it regularly. So if your vision or your goal is unclear or like flip-flopping all over the place, you're going to think that you have a problem being disciplined, but in fact, your problem's clarity. So get clear and then revisit it because it's going to change and you may forget it. So keep revisiting it and then you will keep the path clear for discipline to walk. Number 2, how to be more disciplined is get clear on the set of directives needed to reach your goal or vision. So remember, the robot can't complete the task we want it to do if we don't give it a set of directives. So what are the actions you need to complete in order to get to your vision? If you don't know what you need to do to get where you're going, good luck asking discipline to help you. Okay, and so this might look like every day you make a list of the things that need to be done, that you need discipline to help you with. Okay, number 3, how to increase our discipline is to create a track record. So disciplined people remember a time that they were disciplined and what it provided for them. So they can call on that. They know that that's possible, and then they can build on it every time and make it stronger and more effective. So this is truly just about self-trust and like discipline muscle memory. So perhaps you don't have that memory to call on. You're like, I don't have a track record. So you got to create one, okay? And a great way to create it is start this week by doing something small but hard every day for 30 days. Small but hard. So my brother, his name's Ben. You guys will meet him. He's one of the most disciplined people I know. And he built his discipline by having a cold shower every morning. Ew. But you get it, right? He's like, I'm not going to feel motivated to do that. That's a hard thing. That also takes 2 minutes. So by doing that every day, he built his discipline for himself. So maybe you don't want to do the cold shower thing. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's like, get out of bed and do 50 push-ups every morning. I don't know. Maybe it's like, drink a disgusting green juice. Whatever it is, make it hard, make it small. Make it not take much time. And so you are creating a track record for discipline, and your vision is to increase discipline. Okay, number 4 is care for your energy. I'm sure you saw this coming. So this one's a bit of a conundrum because caring for your energy may require discipline. But hear me out. I am hoping that by making clear to you that discipline will only be harder if you are low on power. Remember that robot? It can't perform its set of directives if it doesn't have power. So you can see why things like just get a good night's rest, drink some water, eat things that sustain you, and that will help you to access discipline easier. And the stronger you get at using discipline, unfortunately, the more you can wield it with less energy. Number 5, how to increase discipline is community. I love this one. This is why I always run group programs or group challenges, because the added accountability of the community really helps people who struggle with discipline to keep showing up. It's like they're not only showing up for themselves, but those in the community. You feel like you're not doing it alone. You feel seen. It's really wonderful. And number 6 for how to improve discipline is to keep track. So remember we talked about how most big visions or goals require that you keep showing up consistently without reward. So the truth is that you are getting somewhere cumulatively over time. It's just not obvious. It's just not like a smack in the face. So it's not like you meditate one day and then have a massive breakthrough, but rather you start to feel more peace and a stronger connection to your intuition. And then you realize it was because you were meditating every day. But a lot of people are missing this step of tracking. So they never make the connection of like, oh, those small disciplined actions I did every day did create results over time. I just didn't see it because I wasn't tracking it and it wasn't like smack you in the face. So track your progress. Maybe that looks like once a week. You want to track what it is that you're trying to attain. So like, I don't know, maybe it's getting stronger at the gym. So you might track like, okay, this week I was able to lift yada yada, and then the next week track what you're able to lift. And over time you're going to see that progress. But if you don't track it, you're not even going to remember. A lot of the time you won't remember where you started. Yeah. So keep track. And finally, friends, I feel like I have to say, because I feel this in a lot of you, I can feel that you don't believe in yourselves. And that's actually what's getting in the way of your discipline. So this is a block that you need to address if you want to wield discipline. And I don't mean to leave you hanging out to dry by not addressing that now, but we'll need to do a whole episode about how to believe in ourselves, how to unblock the limiting belief that you can't believe in yourself. But for now, you can just sit with the question, do I believe that I can reach my vision? Like, do I actually believe that? Do I believe that I deserve my vision? And if the answer is no, that's okay. Now you know. Now you know it's not that you aren't disciplined or you're not capable of calling in discipline. It's that you don't believe in yourself. And for now, rather than like struggling to reach your goal, you can change the goal to, I want to believe in myself. And then we start taking action towards that goal, believing in myself. And I hope I can help you with that with some content soon. Okay, Spirit Club, that's it for today. I hope this helps you wield discipline towards your vision, your goal. And as the summer winds down, I imagine many of you will be calling discipline forward to help you. Okay, have a great week.